Salutations Rangers, General 101 back again with some more lore. In the wacky world of Warhammer 40K, Space Marines are the prime poster boys of everything to do in this beautiful grim darkness of the far future. Even amongst their hallowed ranks, there are many specialists and senior veterans. It's some of the most iconic that truly emphasize the craziness of 40K with the strength of the Space Marine are none other than Chaplains. These venerable warrior priests are masters of both blade and oratory, able to deliver a powerful sermon whilst cracking your head open with a big ass ornate mace. Yet there are a million Space Marines that need a chaplain. And how can one truly decide what makes them amazing? Is it the ability to survive overwhelming odds, the unyielding determination that comes with the post, being the one voice of reason when all others crave violence? Or perhaps is it all of the above and much more? Well, in today's Warhammer 40K lore video, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to cover all that. As today we're covering the top 5 chaplains of Warhammer 40K. Alright, so before we get into today's video proper, some honorable mentions. First up, we have Avanis Ekomi. He is known as the voice of the chapter, the current Ecclesiarch and High Chaplain of the Minotaurs. His claim to fame rose during the Damn War, where he would be the prime commander of the Minotaurs and lead devastating assaults, and he would become known for his righteous retributions of the opposing chapters, all while cracking heads open with that beautiful Crozius. Well, to most of us, this seems pretty normal for chaplains. Back in the day when this first happened, he was a prime character, and truly defined what a chaplain was. Next up, we have Tangata Manu. He's the chaplain from the Space Sharks, the Kakara and Astra, and he's the chap who made that Dark Elder bitch baby and cry. I mean, for at least you gotta have a mention, bro. That was some good shit. And finally, we then have Arkhat. He was in charge of the remaining Blood Angels when Sanguis had done all that nonsense with the demons over at Cygnus. And most notably when receiving an order from the Knights Errant, which are direct agents of Malcador himself, ordering him to empty out the armories and send all his remaining forces over to Terra, turning over the Legion's command. He kindly told Mr. Talus Rubio, the Knight Errant sent, to fuck off and wait, all before getting a message delivered that the Legion still lived. And he was well within his right to do so. Badass veteran from the Horus Heresy, baby. But with those wonderful honorable mentions out of the way, let's get into number 5, and our first chaplain, Asmodai. The story of Asmodai begins way back when, in 405 M41, he would begin his service as a tactical marine, not really making a name for himself, though serving admirably, though not notably. But during his service in the 8th Company, he would be deployed during the Makarian Heresy, and battle upon the Hive Moon of Sigma, where he would fight under his captain Elijah, and there they would encounter traitor forces, led by the Dark Angel Marvin Realm. Now this was a whole surprise to all the Dark Angels present, and it turns out that these traitor forces were actually former Dark Angels known as the Fallen. Now the Dangos quickly took heavy losses. However, at this time, because of Asmodai's direct intervention, the Dark Angels managed to salvage somewhat of the situation, and while the leader Realm was able to escape, so too were the rest of the remaining Dark Angels, turning what was supposed to be a devastating defeat into but a blow to their pride. From here, Asmodai would be quickly elevated into the position of Interrogator Chaplain, and he would capture his first ever fallen angel, Sisyphus, in 411 M41, and he would continue to capture 3 more during his time, and attempt to make them repent, but all 4 didn't really get any bits. However, 5th time's the charm, and Asmodai would find the fallen angel known as Sir Mebon, and he would have him repent after 18 days of straight up torture. Yeah, that's 18 days, my guy, nearly 3 weeks of that shit. From here, Asmodai would quickly gain a reputation for being ruthless, uncompromising, and batshit crazy, and eventually he would rise to the rank of the Master Chaplain Interrogators. And after the whole kerfuffle during the Siege of the Rock, during the whole Arcs of Omen campaign with Vashtor and Abaddon, he would be the one to personally interrogate the Chaos Space Marines to find out what they were doing next and where they were going, which would then lead the Dark Angels to the Somium Stars, and the Battle of Idolatrus. Asmodai is a rather interesting character. He's done a lot of crazy things, and basically he's been made a meme by the community for the degradation and the crazy stupidity of the Dark Angels, most famously with TTS. But those at GW haven't really helped his cause, with him having 2 very infamous events. The first one being that when he was just chilling the rock, he had some boys laughing, and these were dudes from the 7th Company. Asmodai apparently was so pissed by this that he made the 7th Company take a penance of silence, meaning that none of them could utter a single word for 100 Terran years. Unconfirmed, but I'm pretty sure they were making a joke about him being fucking crazy. The second is when he ordered the killing of all new recruits from the world of Nasium, because he did not like the answers that they gave. And lo and behold, the wise wisdom of Asmodai would claim that just because green was not their favorite color, that they were contaminated by gene stock stuff, meaning that they had to be murdered. And these are his most 2 infamous acts, but he's become renowned and infamous of the entirety of not just the Dark Angels, but all the Unforgiven, and any of those outside who know of him as being batshit crazy, utterly insane, and completely dedicated to his methods. So much so that Azrael, the Supreme Grand Master of the Dark Angels, has to step in a couple times to get him to rein in his bullshit. Even the Dark Angels are like, hey, you need to chill the fuck out, dude. But despite this, Asmodai has proved terribly effective. Despite his unique beliefs and his eccentric behavior, whenever Asmodai has stepped to the field, he has been what a chaplain should be. A dedicated stalwart bastion preaching spiritual purity and defying all who come in his path. While many in the Unforgiven do indeed fear him, it is the enemies of mankind that fear him much more. And again, he's also kind of a victim of memes. People love to joke about him, saying that he's literally just a murder hobo from like a D&D party, but we get more of a glimpse of what he actually is. And what a lot of newer 40k fans seem to forget, memes are jokes. They're not reality. As we see from the book Unforgiven.
Wait here.
Belial snapped at his men as he stepped into the chamber. He turned and closed the door. The lock light flickered from green to red again, indicating the chamber was secure.
Do you not trust this information to your knights?
Like Samael's elite, the Deathwing Knights knew of Cypher's existence and importance, if not his true nature. Belial said nothing and strolled past Asmodai. He did not wear his helm, his eyes fixed on the fallen. Just as the Deathwing commander reached for his blade, Asmodai realized Belial's intent. The Sword of Silence flashed free from its scabbard, and Asmodai only had a heartbeat to react. The interrogated chaplain launched himself at Belial, one hand reaching out for the blade of the Grand Master's sword, while the other dragged the Croesus Arcanum from his own belt. The Sword of Silence crackled as Asmodai's fingers closed around the weapon. Pain seared up the chaplain's arm, and he saw rather than felt his fingers and thumb falling away. Though he had lost his hand, the interruption had been enough to deflect the Grand Master's blow. As Belial turned, face twisted with hatred, Asmodai lashed out with his Croesus. Belial parried the blow easily. Asmodai was no match for the Master Swordsman, but he could not let the Grand Master attack the prisoner without cause.
Cease this madness! You protect him, the Damned One, the Cursed of the Dark Angels, the Lion's Bane!
Asmodai shoved Cypher aside with his mutilated hand as Belial moved to strike again, intercepting the Grand Master once more. Belial stayed his blade a centimeter from Asmodai's head.
It is too dangerous to allow him to live. We risk too much bringing him aboard. He will only die beneath your blades all the same. You must forgo your bloody pleasures this one time. That is not the point. He must be allowed to repent. His death condemns or exonerates his soul. I take no pleasure from the grievous harm I inflict. It is necessary to arrive at the unvarnished truth. Blood washes away the lies. Do not dare to call me a murderer, Belial!
The vehemence of Asmodai's rebuttal caused the Grand Master to pause. Asmodai was incensed and did not relent.
Is that what you think of me? A maniac, good only to slay our prisoners. Am I held in so low regard that you would deny me the opportunity to exact the repentance of one whom we have held in such vile humor for 10 millennia? He will manipulate us, bend our thoughts to his will, see what ruin Aslan wrought upon us, and how easily he escaped, with simple words and opportunism. It is a mistake to allow him onto the starship. I would no more let him set foot upon the rock than I would invite an enemy army into the Tower of Angels. It is not your decision.
Asmodai insisted with gritted teeth. The chaplain knew that Belial still wanted Cypher dead. There was little, nothing, he admitted, that he could do to physically prevent it, but he would not be bowed by failed threats.
Would you raise your blade against me, Grand Master of the First Company? Am I your foe as well? If you decide to stand in my way, you place yourself against me. I give you one last chance to submit to my will, brother.
Asmodai did not say what he intended. Belial lunged at him, the tip of the Sword of Silence directed at the chaplain's shoulder, aimed to disarm rather than kill. Asmodai swept his Croesus up barely in time. The Grand Master's blade sheared through the chaplain's pauldron, missing the shoulder within. Pulling back his blade, Belial ready for another blow. Asmodai could see in the Grand Master's eyes that this time there would be no leniency.
Expiritu venatus!
Asmodai shouted in desperation, using the words that had been implanted into the mind of every Dark Angel as a failsafe against this treachery. The message could be transmitted mentally by a librarian also. Never again would a Dark Angel turn on his own. Belial stumbled, face screwed up with pain at the verbal trigger. More calmly, Asmodai continued.
Verbatis non, Belial. Tu esta dominatus voxilis, tu pacifica, et somornalis.
The other Space Marine sagged in his armor, eyes glazing. Asmodai's incantation had caused Belial's Capsaicin node to misfire. Normally, the implant allowed a Space Marine to relax one half of his brain at the time, remaining semi-functional, whilst effectively asleep. Now the malfunctioning organ was rapidly activating and deactivating the Grand Master's synapses, effectively rendering him into a hydrogonic state.
You should not have seen that,
said Asmodai, looking at Cypher. The falling's expression was a mixture of concern and curiosity.
If you speak of this to anyone, you'll kill me. I have never claimed to be a complicated man.
Cypher stepped forward.
What will you do with him now? That is no concern of yours.
The truth is, Balal would be aroused by another set of keywords, which would also erase his memory of the incident. In time, he would naturally construct a false memory to cover the gap, prompted by the certain key elements inserted by Asmodai before Belial awoke. And here we see a really excellent example of what Asmodai truly is. Again, most people believe Asmodai is simply to be a blood-crazed butcher, a psychopath. Yet while Asmodai very much has some psychotic tendencies, they're not done out of pleasure, nor were they just born within. Asmodai is someone who hates the fallen, the enemies of mankind, just as much as he hates himself. He knows what he is doing is wrong. He is aware of everything that's going on, but there is something pawing at his very soul that demands retribution. So to Asmodai, he has a choice. Sacrifice what little pleasure and what little understanding he has in this world to gain true understanding and repentance, not just for him, but his whole legion in the next life, the soul life, by the side of the Emperor. It is a logical decision, rather than one born of psychotic emotion. Asmodai represents the Dark Angels very well, but not in the way that people think. He's not a blood-crazed butcher, a psychotic murderer. He is not a definition of the degradation, of the evil, of the sin of the Dark Angels. Rather, he is a definition of a Dark Angel. Someone who can be good. Someone who knows what is wrong, yet still does what is required, purely because the idea of them being found wanting, as traitors, is something he'd rather die than accept. He is driven into this madness because he believes he has nothing else. Much more fitting than the blood-crazed butcher that people paint him out to be. But from the Ancients of Caliban to the Wolves of Fenris, we then have Ulric, the Slayer. Ulric the Slayer, grandfather Lupus, guardian of the Sons of Rus, is the High Wolf Priest of the Space Wolves, their version of Chaplains. And whilst many may believe that Bjorn is Granddaddy Wolfie when the big mech boy is asleep, it is Ulric who takes up that mantle, as he's the oldest wolf alive, even older than big old Mr. Logan Grimnar himself. Now, Logan Grimnar has served the chapter for about 700 years, give or take, which means that Ulric has served for over that, possibly 8 or even 900 years old. He's a pretty old bastard, and it's believed that it was Ulric himself who selected Logan Grimnar for the position of Space Marine within the Space Wolves. And it's said that he continued to be his mentor, watching him grow and progress, from a bloodcore all the way up to the mighty chapter master that he is now. And many are inclined to believe this, as he's still the chief advisor to Logan Grimnar, and not to mention he still refers to the Great Wolf by his first name, and still treats him like he's a scout. Well, even though they don't really have scouts, but you know what I mean. However, Ulric's claim to fame would first come during the First War for Armageddon, where he would serve as a wolf guard in the great company of the Wolf Lord Kruger. During the Battle for Armageddon, a group of World Eaters would spy on the Wolf Boys, and lo and behold, we had a giant melee brawl for the ages. During this time, however, the Wolf Lord Kruger would fall in combat, as he would die via 3 hulking Khorne berserkers. Extra roided up. These may or may not have been 8-bound, it's unknown, but they're probably just really angry Khorne berserkers. Of course, Ulric seeing this, he just leapt at them with bare hands. Turns out he had lost his weapon a way before, so with bare hands, bare teeth, and broad-ass big titanical testicles, homeboy squared up and ripped the 3 boys apart, slaying one after one in a bloody melee. Now apparently, this Space Wolf was so fuck-off mad angry, that Angron himself saluted him. Angron, yes, that Angron was like, yeah, good job, dude. Though I'm pretty certain that Ulric didn't even notice. But after the Imperium had won victory on Armageddon, Ulric earned the title the Slayer, and he was voted in by all the other Wolfguard and all present to become the new Wolf Lord, or the captain of the company. But to everyone's fucking surprise, he declined. A Space Wolf declining glory and position is like a goddamn Welsh person refusing to get drunk on a Sunday. It just doesn't fucking happen. And here we see the first bits that make Ulric such a good leader. The fact that he realizes that he's not a leader, he's a warrior. He understood the limitations of himself, and rather than desiring glory, rather than desiring pride, rather than desiring anything, he knew that if he took up the position, he'd do a shit job, or there was someone who could do it better. So, he decided that he would accept his place and his lot in life, and be a humble warrior and an immense servant. Very rare for Space Wolves. Of course, we all know what happened after Armageddon. The Inquisition wanted to murder everyone because you saw a demon, therefore you have to die, and the Space Wolves were not having that shit. In fact, Logan Grimaldus wanted to straight up throw hands with the Administratum, but he would be persuaded not to do this. And this was by Ulric himself. After this, Logan Grimaldus and everyone around them knew that Ulric was more than just a simple warrior. And whilst he didn't become Wolf Lord, he would however accept the title of Wolf Priest, that being Chaplain, and here his true talent would be discovered, the selection and training of new recruits. But just as he chose Logan Grimaldus way back when, it turns out that this fella had a talent, and thus did the old wolf begin raising the young pups. However, while he is still very level-headed outside of combat, when it comes to combat himself, you might as well call him a berserker, for in recent years he's become even more aggressive, rushing headlong into the midst of enemy foes, cursing and swatting with his massive crozius. In fact, it's believed by many that this is not some type of bloodlust, but rather done on purpose. Many people believe that Ulric wishes to die, not of any type of morbidity, nor any type of melancholy, but rather, he has recognized that he is coming to his end. He is getting old, already a greybeard. He does not want to become withered. He wants to die on his feet, and enter into the halls of Valhalla alongside the Allfather and Russ himself. Yet despite this, he still offers level-headed counsel. Yet he's still a space wolf at heart, and an old bastard at that. Such as when the Indomptus Crusade started, Ulric would be the one to urge him to fight Ghazghkull, and accept the fate that the old warriors must die and the new generation must come forward. He also was one of the voices that said that, hey, Primaris Marines, not a good idea, let's not accept those. So he still has his own thoughts and opinions, and he's not just Mr. Super Righteous Best Choice guy. But, most importantly, when Logan Grimaldus decreed that he would accept the Primaris, Ulric accepted them wholeheartedly and followed orders and treated them like they were firstborn. He's someone who still has his goals and his ideas, his wants and desires, but unlike other Space Wolves, he's not willing to fight on them for every single thing. When it comes to shit that he's willing to fight for, like the body of his Jarl, he'll fucking do it in a heartbeat. But he's not belligerent. He is basically what a level-headed Space Wolf should be. Level-headed for a Space Wolf, but not so level-headed that you make them question if that light blue should become dark blue. He also wears a unique type of helm, that being the Wolf Helm of Russ. Basically, when the Emperor first met Russ, he decided to create him a helmet in honoring the creation and founding of his legion, aka Wolf Helm, because wolf, wolf, wolf. Ulric is an interesting form, because while he's very much a Space Wolf, he represents what a Space Wolf should be in my opinion. He's balanced. He's still very Space Wolfy, boy loves his throw hands, but he's not stupid. He's not aggressive and he's not belligerent. A prime example we have of this is when the Space Wolves are hunting for Logan Grimaldus, who's gone missing. Again, because, he does that. They end up getting assaulted by a demon of Tzeentch. But not just any demon, Kairos motherfucking Fate Weaver. And whilst everyone is trying to fight this guy, and whilst Kairos is getting ready to cast a big spell, Ulric decides that he's going to take matters into his own hands. Before the demon could work its magic, Ulric attacked the demon. He wrapped his arm around the ivory and gold length of the staff. He could feel the mutating energies of Kairos' congregation rippling through the shaft and seeking to penetrate his own armor.
Foolish mortal! You cannot hurt me!
Ulric led back at the demon, the fiend that had caused his chapter so much sacrifice.
Maybe not, but what about this?
He slammed his croziers down against the immense tome that was lashed to the ivory rod. Ancient pages were ripped free by the blow, sent skittering across the plateau. Kairos cried out in shock, lunging out of the torn pages. Laughing, Ulric repeated his attack, ripping another fistful of sheets from the tome. The demon's left head fixed upon him, the eyes blazing with unspeakable hatred. It started to raise its claw, to pluck him forcibly from the staff. But even as it did, the demon's right head shouted in alarm. The wolfen that had been darting about its legs, biting and clawing at the fiend, now gave up that pursuit. Instead, they rushed after the scattered pages. Whirlwind sprang from its eyes, whipping around the wolfen, trying to catch the pages before the savage creatures could take hold of it. Ulric seized upon the demon's distress, sending more pages fluttering away from its book. Kairos, unwilling to risk any magic that might harm his precious pages, could only try and shake the foe loose by whipping his staff back and forth, yet this did not work. Again, here we see what a wolf is. A wolf is savage, a wolf is brutal, a wolf is powerful, but a wolf is also cunning, smarts, intelligence, wisdom, wits. These are things that are common for wolves, and for great heroes in Norse mythology as a whole. So it's really nice to see that a dude of the Space Wolves actually does something like that for once. Ulric the Slayer is, again, what a Space Wolf should be. Understandable, reasonable, but not belligerent. He has wits, but he's not super intelligent. He's not an idiot, but he's not exactly going to write you a 17-letter dissertation on why bread is bad. He is the perfect balance of being both a Space Wolf but also not being a dick, something which the Space Wolves seem to have missed in recent years. Yet while the grandfather of the Space Wolves seeks his death to die in glorious fire and join the ranks of Hell Warriors, whilst he lives, the wolves will have someone they can rely on to show them not only what it means to be a wolf, but more importantly, a Volca Fenrica, or a wolf of Fenris. But from the lupine that hunt the stars to the warrior kings of Macragge, let's talk about Orton Cassius. Orton Cassius is the Master of Sanctity, aka the head chaplain of the Ultramarines. He was inducted to the chaplaincy very early on into his career, yet despite him being relatively new, many Battle Brothers became inspired by his righteous hatred that he had. He was an amazing orator. Ultramarines were able to produce some really good orators, and Cassius was said to be the greatest of his generation, though it's noted that some of the chapter's veterans, and the Ultramarines being known for caution, believed that his actions were very chaotic, as well as reckless in some cases. Sometime before the Tyrannic Wars, Cassius would join the Death Watch for a time. From there, he would help to purge Genestealer cults, particularly on Gosar Quintus. Now, this was really important, because this was the Imperium's first major encounter with such Xenos races, especially the Nids, which I haven't met yet. Despite him forming a pretty badass kill team, this experience would give him incredible knowledge when it came to combating Tyranids and their lifeforms, meaning that he would have way more knowledge than the average Ultramarine, which would prove telling. For it would be during the Battle of Macragge that Cassius would fight side by side by the Chapter Master Manius Calgar. During the last stage of the battle, he'd be at the head of the relief force, going towards the Polar fortresses to save the embattled First Company. But during that time, he'd get run over by a giant fuck of Carnifex, and we all know how that ends up. Basically, homie's body was all types of fucked up, but he managed to stay alive. Apothecaries was said to have recalled that his sheer hatred and burning passion in his eyes did not diminish, even as his body seemed to fail him. From there, he had to be rebuilt bit by cybernetic bit. Approximately 70% of his body had been replaced by cybernetics, and whilst his voice became forever changed, the voice truly had lost none of its fervor. And that's part of the reason why Orton Cassius wanted it that way. He would have refused and turned it into a dreadnought, wishing instead to be rebuilt bit by bit. He also refused any and all facial augments as well as scarring reduction upon his face. He wanted to scare the piss out of his enemies. He wanted to lead his brothers into battle. After the Battle of Macragge, it would be he that would petition Manius Calgar to form a new unit, known as the Tyrannic War Veterans. The most seasoned and capable Ultramarines that had survived the battle would be reformed into a brand new veteran unit, exclusive to the Ultramarines. Now this was a pretty big fucking deal, because Cassius, a chaplain, and basically one of the few chaplains left, decided to deviate from the Codex Astartes. Now, while most people the Codex Astartes was a guideline, to the Ultramarines, especially during this time, it was basically their Bible. What the Space Book said, the Space Book did. If you didn't do what the Space Book said, you get hit with the big ol' stick. The fact that the dude with the big ol' bonky stick was saying to do something that deserved a bonking made many blueberries kinda lose their shit. Orton Cassius, however, was a man of pragmatism, and whilst after the initial battle he still retained his righteous retribution and aggressive battle tactics, it was now tempered by the understanding of a veteran Ultramarine, and he would continue fighting the Tyranids in both the Second, Third, and now Fourth Tyrannic War, even as much of the Ultramarines redirected towards the Plague Wars during the rise of the Indomitus Crusade and return of their Primarch. Orton Cassius and his Tyrannic War veterans remained steadfast focused on the incoming Tyranid threat, and during the heart of the Fourth Tyrannic War, it's Orton Cassius who's right at the center, continuing his fight. Orton Cassius is interesting for the Ultramarines. He's someone who believes and understands pragmatism. Theories and practicals are his bread and butter, but he's not bound by the stifling dogmatism that became renowned with the Ultramarines during the 10,000 years after the heresy. He's someone who does what needs to be done, and he's someone who's not afraid to speak his mind, for he believes ultimately in doing the right thing, such as in the book Catechism of Hate.
Styrax is an agri-world, home to less than 5 million souls,
Pointed out Captain Agamen, who held the title of Regent of Ultramar, second in authority only to Calgar.
1,000 times that number are threatened at Vortengard. Our priorities are clear. We must not be distracted from our current course of action.
The chaplain stood up and leaned forward, resting his knuckles of his armored gauntlets on the polished black marble of the table. Like the table, the chaplain's armor was jet black, only his left shoulder painted in blue. Skull devices adorned his armor against a welter of wax-sealed purity parchments, and at his hip was a chained copy of the Liber Ultramar, the honor roll of the Ultramarines.
You wish to say something? It is not my place to countermand the wishes of this council, but I have words that need to be heard. Who knows better than those seated here what the devastation the Tyranids can unleash? Who but the Ultramarines has the experience and knowledge to defeat this threat? More than that, who above the Ultramarines do the people of the Imperium look for salvation from this vile alien menace? We cannot fight every foe, no matter how we might desire it. We must always weigh up the price of action. Stixia cannot be considered a more important cause than the highvolts and manufactories of the Vortinger spiral.
Cassius stepped away from the table and crossed the hall to where the broad bookcase stood beneath a tapestry showing the north facade of the Macrog Senate House. The chaplain took the first volume from the top shelf, a hefty tome, the spine of which barely fit into his giant hand. Carrying the book, he moved around the table and placed it in front of Agamemnon.
The Codex Astartes, penned by the Primarch. Show me, Severus. Where in the wisdom of Gilliman are we told to put logic before honor? I can turn to the pages that tell us not to waste the lives of our warriors in the cause of vanity, if you like. To what advantage would we send our warriors into this campaign, if not strategic, nor personal? What end do we serve if we do not respond to this call above all others? We give hope. Ever has it been that the Space Marines are too few to conquer every threat. Yet the truth of our existence and the hope of our intervention steals the heart of lesser warriors and lends strength to their conviction. They hold out against impossible odds and offer prayers to the Emperor that the angels of death will come. They fight harder, knowing that if they do, we might intervene. Mankind believes our Emperor to be a god, and that is both foolish and blind. Yet they also believe the Adeptus Astartes to be the instrument of his will, and that is not so ignorant. I cannot say whether the Emperor answers prayers thrown up in desperation, but I do know that the Ultramarines reply to calls for aid if it is possible. To not answer that cry threatens to shatter something far more precious than all worlds and hive manufactories. Faith in the Space Marines.
There was no word raised from the captains against the powerful argument spoken by the Master of Sanctity. Alexion shook his head lightly as Cassius looked directly at him, while Agamemnon lowered his eyes, unable to meet the chaplain's gaze. The council turned to Manius Calgar, who remained attentive but dispassionate throughout the exchange.
Take the first strike cruiser Fidelus as transport. It has sufficient berths and craft to effect a landing for 100 warriors. Your faith will be rewarded. 100 Space Marines is a force that will balk any foe. The glory of the Ultramarines will be maintained, and our honor upheld. I will look unkindly upon unnecessary heroics. We cannot afford heavy casualties at this time. I trust you not to spend the lives of the chapter's warriors without good cause. Do not disappoint me.
Feeling chastised, Cassius dropped to one knee and bowed his head to the chapter master.
Your disappointment will be the most severe castigation I could suffer. We will not fail.
And here we see again, Orton Cassius displaying that he is indeed an Ultramarine, but he possesses the best of his chapter. He believes in the pragmatism of the Codex Astartes, and still venerates it like most other Ultramarines. But he is not bound by it. He is not bound by the stigmatic, stifling dogmatism which Gilliman himself chafes under when he returns. He instead understands that the Ultramarines have a duty to one and all, a duty to every. Thus, since they are Space Marines, they can do everything, and they will do everything, or die trying. A sentiment that some people, especially those who don't know the Ultramarines, might believe belongs in more passionate chapters, like the Salamanders or Blood Angels. But then again, if you said that, you really don't know the Ultramarines. Unlike Orton Cassius, who truly is an exemplar of the Ultramarine creed. But from an exemplar of the marbled halls of Macrog to one smothered in rage of sable, bearing the blood of an angel. Let's talk about Lemartes next. Lemartes, the guardian of the lost. He is a chaplain of the Blood Angels that occupies a unique spot. He's not exactly the High Chaplain, but that belongs to Asrath the Grim, the Executioner. But he's essentially a second type of High Chaplain. But whilst Asrath the Grim is in charge of the normal Blood Angels and executing the Death Company, Lemartes is in charge of leading them, because he kinda is one of them. When the Blood Angels were deployed against the Orcs and Hadrath, Lemartes would succumb to the Black Rage. Thusly, being part of the Death Company, he would be inducted into the Brothers in Black, and he would charge forth into battle, being incredibly ferocious and wrathful. Yet, he managed to survive. And as Azeroth went to kill him, and the Apothecary went to collect his Geed Seed, it turns out that he could still speak. Not just, speak, but speak coherently. He also understood that what he was seeing was just a load of luck. Azeroth was, really hesitant, because this is what nearly happened. Lemartes was still there. He was still in the Black Rage, but he was still coherent. He was able to restrain himself, he was able to speak calmly, he was able to act normally, rationally. He had the Black Rage, but he wasn't controlled by it. Rather, it was him controlling it. After this, Azeroth decided to take the middle ground. He would then put Lemartes into stasis and send him back to Bhaal, be thoroughly examined by the sanguinary priests. The Sanguinary Priest would then scan him up and down, and basically after months of testing they would come to the same conclusion. Lemartes had been hit by the rage. Hit hard, that is. Yet his willpower was keeping it in check. For the first time ever, the blood of Sanguinius did not overwhelm the soul of the aspirant inside it. Rather, this Space Marine had managed to hold on to his will and his soul. His soul was in control of the rage. This had never happened before, ever, and everyone was absolutely shocked. Though they did warn that while his control was strong, it would not last forever, and eventually he would fall. So Astrath would offer him his unique role as the leader of the Death Company, a new type of chaplain, the guardian of the lost. And thus Lemartes has continued forth. Wherever the Blood Angels Death Company arises, it is Lemartes at the helm, screaming and bellowing rage symphonies, and for the first time ever, the Death Company is more than just a bloodthirsty mass of men. He is able to direct them, to give them purpose, whereas before they were just let loose, to die and to murder everyone as a type of lost Hail Mary. With the use of Lemartes, they can actually be a directed force capable of fighting. They're an actual tool instead of a liability. They're still Death Company at the end of the day, but an unwieldy tool that you can use is better than a tool that you can never even dream of using. A perfect example we have comes from Lemartes, Guardian of the Lost.
I fall into the vision. The burning blood fades. The world shapes itself into the halls of a battle barge. We seek the great enemy, and it is only here that we will find him. The walls of stone and blasphemous iconography rise above me. I see the enemy. I see Horus. I am racked by burning pain. There is why. Horus has slain the angel. Brothers! Avenge your father! As one we streak towards Horus, the weakened portion of my mind knows that this delusion cries out to me. I have found the enemy, but I cannot fight him through a lie. The wretch is massive. I am torn between two times, two worlds, two reals. But I see the truth again. I lead the Death Company in a direct fight through the billowing fire of blood at Scarbrand. All our forces concentrated into a spear formation. We unleash a hail of bolted fire before us. Scarbrand flinches. The shells damage his form. Then, the answer comes to me. Why would traitors seek redemption? What makes a demon desperate? Betrayal. Somehow, in some form, Scarbrand and the Blood Disciples are racked by a regret for a betrayal. I do not have to know its nature. It is enough to know there is weakness there. And in this moment, the warriors of the Death Company believe themselves to be avenging the greatest betrayal in our history. We strike at the demon's weakness, his consciousness of sin. He retaliates with greater fury. The axes come together with blood and fire and the searing, jagged black of rage. I see the blow coming. I kill the propulsion of my jump pack and drop down. My brothers see an attack, but they see Horus, and Scarbrand is a colossus. The lie of vision dooms many. The material screens of axes collide. Figures in black armor are torn apart from the fragmenting reality. But there are still more of us, and the charge continues. Scarbrand roars in pain. He smashes more of the Death Company to the ground at the same time that I am rising again. I shoot up, straight up, between the massive sweeps of the demon's weapons. At the zenith of my climb, I am level with his eyes. I bring the blood croziers down with all the strength of purified holy wrath upon his skull. The sacred relic shatters bone. Scarbrand's roars deafen me. He drops an axe and snatches me out of the air. His grip is crushing. I cannot breathe. I feel my frame splinter, but my arms are free, and I strike again. Focused on me, he has left himself open to the rest of the Death Company. The shells from my brother hit his chest and throat at the same time. Demonic ichor sprays into the air, combusting when it makes contact with flaming blood. Still holding me, Scarbrand looks down. His lethal roar falls upon my brothers. But they have fired one last volley, and I strike one more time. And the sin of the demon overwhelms his material form. With a howl to blot out all light, he loses the coherence of his rage. He explodes, and all realities disappear in the instant of an absolute conflagration.
And here we see something very unique. Lemartes amongst the Blood Angels is a very decisive figure. Some believe that he is just the inevitability, another cruel twist of fate, hope dangled in front of the hopeless. Others, however, believe that Lemartes generally is hope for the Blood Angels. For if he can control the rage in some fashion, that means that theoretically, some, if not more of them, could eventually control it. And if they continue at this, maybe the entire chapter could learn to control it. Yet despite this, Lemartes represents the unique duality of the Blood Angels. He possesses both the dark blackness of the Black Angel, the rage of Sable burrowing deep within inside him. Yet despite that, he still possesses his golden soul. The white gilded wings of Sanguinius still exist in his heart, and rather than being colored black by the dark dripness of rage, they have remained white and perfect. Instead, their light shining from them has shielded the darkness and kept it at bay, even for just a little bit longer. The perfect example of a Blood Angel. And again, that is all on the spiritual side. When it comes to all the physical nonsense, Lemartes is able to understand and direct his brothers into combat. Before, all those death companies just would have died against Angron. But with Lemartes, they're able to actively fight and put the demon in his place. Something that many people would have never even thought closely possible way back when. What Lemartes will be, no one can say. But what he is 100% certain. A Blood Angel in full control of the Black Rage. But speaking of a black armored chaplain, let's talk about number 1, and y'all already know who the hell this is gonna be. And ladies and gentlemen, we come to none other than the number 1 chaplain in all of Warhammer 40K, Marc Grimaldus, the hero of Hive Hell's Reach. So, super short TLDR time. Grimaldus was noted by the Hell Marshal Helbrecht himself, and he was the youngest Space Marine to ever be inducted into the rank of the Sword Brethren, the special elite formation of the Black Templars. He would be mentored by Mordred, the then Reclusiarch of the Black Templars at the time. And eventually, when Mordred would pass, Grimaldus would succeed him as Reclusiarch. From there, he would be deployed to the War of Armageddon, and he would be put in charge of Hive Hell's Reach, where he would then make his claim to fame. Now, I'm not going to really explain much more because y'all already know the story, and hell, so many people have done videos about him, particularly this one 3-hour video, which is a deep dive. Go check it out, it's pretty solid content. So, I'm just gonna leave you guys with the most iconic moment of Grimaldus, and what sums him up perfectly as the perfect exemplar of the Black Templars.
Do you see that?
He asked quietly. At first, only silence followed. Hesitantly, the guard soldiers began to cast glances at each other, uncomfortable with the chaplain's presence and confused by his behavior. All eyes were on him now. Grimaldus aimed his mace at the advancing hordes. Thousands, tens of thousands, and only the very beginning.
Do you see that?
He roared at the humans. The closest ranks flinched back from the mechanical bark that issued, almost deafeningly loud, from his skull helm.
Answer me!
He received trembling nods. A handful of them uttered yes sirs weakly. Grimaldus turned his back to the wasteland, already dark with the teeming chaotic ranks of the enemy. At first, his helm emitted a low, vox-distorted chuckle. Within a few seconds, he was laughing up at the burning sky, while aiming his crow's-ears hammer at the enemy.
Are you insulted as I am? This is what they send against us?
He turned back to the men, the laughter fading, but amused contempt filling his voice, even through the inhumanizing vocaliz of his helm.
This is what they send! This rabble! We hold one of the mightiest cities on the face of the planet! The fury of its guns send all skyborn enemies to the ground in flames! We stand united in our thousands! Our weapons without number! Our purity without question! Our hearts beating courage through our blood! And this is how they attack us! Brothers and sisters, a legion of beggars and alien drakes wheezes its way across the plains. Forgive me when the moment comes that they whine and weep against our walls. Forgive me that I must order you to waste ammunition upon their worthless bodies. I have heard many souls speak my name in whispers since I came to Hell's Reach. I ask you now, do you know me? I am Grimaldus of the Black Templars, a brother to the Steel Legions of this defiant world.
The muttered cheer greeted his words. It wasn't enough. Not even close.
Never again in life will your actions carry such consequences. Never again will you serve as you serve now. No duty will matter as much. No glory will taste as true. We are the offenders of Hell's Reach. On this day we carve our legend in the flesh of every alien we slay. Will you stand with me?
Now the cheers came in truth. They thundered in the air around him.
Will you stand with me?
Again a roar.
Sons and daughters of the Imperium, our blood is the blood of heroes and martyrs. The Xenos defile our sacred city. They dare to tread the sacred soil of our world. We will throw their bodies from this walls when the final day dawns.
A wave of noise crashed against his armor as they cheered. Grimaldus raised his war maul, aiming it at the embattled heavens.
This is our city. This is our world. Say it! Say it! Cry out so the bastards in orbit will hear our fury. Our city! Our world!
Our city! Our world! Laughing again, Grimaldus turned to face the oncoming horde.
Run, alien dogs! Come to me! Come to us all! Come die in blood and fire!
Blood and fire!
For Hell's Reach! Louder! They cannot hear you, brothers!
For Hell's Reach!
Hurl yourselves at these walls in human filth! Die on our blades! I am Grimaldus of the Black Templars, and I will cast your carcasses from these holy walls!
Grimaldus! 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 Grimaldus nodded, still staring out over the wastelands, letting the cheering chant mix with the howling wind, knowing it would carry towards the advancing enemy. Grimaldus is an amazing chaplain. He is the chaplain, what a chaplain should be. And for the Black Templars, he represents their fervor, their spiritual purity, and their sheer fucking craziness. Minus all the bad bullshit that makes them fucking lunatics. Grimaldus is a Black Templar, but a balanced and measured Black Templar. Not to mention, goddamn fucking cool. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has been the top 5 chaplains of Warhammer 40K. Each and every one of them represent their legion, and they represent the best parts of it, tempered and measured. Chaplains are the spiritual purifiers of their chapter. They lead their battle brothers in spiritual fortitude, and they direct the soul of the very chapter. Thus it is very fitting that all of those mentioned here today are exemplars of what their chapters should be. The best of the best, without the worst of the worst. And I think it's very fitting. And ladies and gentlemen, to me, that is what makes a chaplain the best part of a Space Marine. Because at the end of the day, what's better than a battle preacher? But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know down below, what is your favorite chaplain? Love to hear your thoughts down below. But I want to say a massive thank you guys for watching. Even more massive thank you to my awesome members and Patreons. Big shout out to my beautiful officer corps, Mr. Eddie V3 and Miss Majora of the Void. Big shout out to my Sergeant tier members, Mr. Damiak, Mr. Andy McGee, Mr. Wolfsmith the Fireheart, Mr. Corns Butcher, Mr. Sean RL7, Mr. Bowen, and Mr. Matthew Merrill. Shout out to my corporal tier members, Mr. Tremeo the Math Kitty, Mr. Lord Rosarius, Miss Shauna Smithers, Mr. Tech Priest Toaster, and finally, but absolutely certainly not least, big shout out to my private tier members, Mr. Thomas Moslons, Mr. Ivan _SVW, Mr. Michael Hader, Mr. Tori's Curse, Mr. Monkey Man, Mr. Diego Castro, Mr. Vortis Unum, Mr. Gentle Salamander, Mr. CMD Nay, The Wench of Warhammer, Mr. Simon Kamu, and Mr. Damrek. Thank you. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Sign up today. You get to support the channel, get some awesome benefits, early access videos, behind the scenes stuff for the channel, and my just love and support. Remember, there's always be free, and whether you give your boy $1 or not, I will love you just the same. Mwah. But ladies and gentlemen, I've been the General Bradley 101. You've been beautiful, awesome, and amazing people. Thank you all so very much for watching. You almost should say hello out there, boys and gals. And I'll catch y'all next time. Dismiss, Rangers! God damn it, I love me some chaplains. So fucking good, bro. Now all I need is a chaplain singing a hymn to the god emperor while fucking cracking open heads with a skull mace.